Ever since the release of Star Wars The Last Jedi, a lot of fans around the world have had major problems with how the sequel trilogy has been handled by both Disney and Lucasfilm, and especially even with The Rise of Skywalker for some Star Wars fans out there. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, one thing about Episode 9 is that we do know that this movie was the culmination of the Skywalker saga. It marked the very end of the saga that started back in 1977, and that now Disney and Lucasfilm are moving on to bigger things for the Star Wars franchise, not just on Disney+, but also for their upcoming Star Wars movies, and of course their new Star Wars canon material that's also going to fit into the new Star Wars universe, that's really going to retell aspects of the Star Wars galaxy and its stories. Now, when we look at everything here by Disney and Lucasfilm, as of right now, they're in a phase of desperation. There's no denying this. It's because, well, they're really trying to piece things together. They're trying to reunite the fans, the fans that were basically lost ever since the release of The Last Jedi, and even some with The Rise of Skywalker that were very unhappy with how the saga ended that started decades ago, over 40 years ago, by creator George Lucas. Now, speaking of George Lucas, what's very exciting is, of course, about his involvement with the future of Star Wars moving forward, not just with the new Star Wars universe, but also with TV shows and upcoming Star Wars movies in the near future. Now, that both Disney and Lucasfilm are currently finished with the sequel trilogy and are focused on their new Star Wars universe, many fans have been very curious about the future of the franchise and exactly where it's going to go for the fans. Disney is said to be in a phase of damage control by fixing the franchise as best as they can, and that a part of this plan to bring Star Wars back up on its feet, where it's noted that they are bringing in creator George Lucas to have creative control over many projects that are currently in the works by Disney and Lucasfilm. Now, it's noted that Disney and Lucasfilm have over 10 years worth of Star Wars projects for Disney+, such as animated and live-action TV shows, and aside from that, they are also planning new Star Wars films to release in the near future for fans. It's noted that one of the major projects that Disney is said to be working on is a TV series that is based on George Lucas's Star Wars Underworld that will be somewhat revived, and that George will have creative control over aspects of the story that will show fans an entirely different side of Star Wars. Not just that, but also George is said to also have creative control over the Kenobi series, now with both Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, as well on the side that George will also be using many of his original concepts for Kenobi's life on Tatooine sometime after Revenge of the Sith for the Kenobi TV series. Now, it's noted that this comes from Disney CEO Bob Iger, and that George is also attached to the new Star Wars films that are slated for release throughout this decade, and that George will be applying many scrapped material from his previous movies to the new ones, and that George is working on the new Star Wars universe as we speak with Disney to fix the character of Luke Skywalker in the upcoming Star Wars lore to be told. So, the thing about George is that we do know that at the end of the day, say what you will about the prequels had consistency. It felt original. We had new characters, new ships, new worlds. It really gave us a different view on Star Wars, and that's what I like so much about it. And when we look at the sequel trilogy, it really seems like, yes, we do get new worlds, but they're mainly modeled after the original trilogy, once again. We have a desert world in The Rise of Skywalker. We have a foresty world in The Rise of Skywalker, right? That are basically mimicking Endor and Tatooine to a certain extent, right? So the fact that now they're moving on to this new Star Wars trilogy of films, the fact that George is going to be attached to that and will be involved with the creative aspects of that, not just that, but also new Star Wars TV shows, one of which is going to be modeled after Star Wars Underworld, and not just that, also the Kenobi TV series. So I believe that this falls directly in line with what we talked about recently, how Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, actually took away a lot of the creative aspects that Kathleen Kennedy was able to manipulate and actually control, and is now handing it over to other creatives like Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and yes, now even George Lucas. This really is a light at the end of the tunnel. There's no denying this. I mean, this really is a light at the very end of the tunnel here for Star Wars. I think it really is a good sign by Disney and Lucasfilm that things are really starting to correct themselves, and that they are trying their very best in order to reunite the fan base. Now, will they actually be successful at doing this? This all depends on execution, on exactly how well these projects are going to be made and exactly how it's all going to be done, and which I'm very hopeful for, because looking at The Mandalorian and what Jon Favreau did, what Dave Filoni did when directing some of the episodes, it is very well done, it's very well shot and edited and written, and it really does leave me, and I'm sure a lot of you guys out there, very hopeful about the future when it comes to Disney Plus and these new Star Wars films, now that Kathleen Kennedy no longer has creative control over these new Star Wars projects, and that George, John, and Dave are going to be more so involved. So anyways, guys, drop a comment below, let me know what you think about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Mm-hmm.